go.
All right, everybody's coming in.
Great.
There we go.
Here we are. Apologies for the technical difficulties, good people. Thank you for being patient and waiting through that. You know, this is kind of like the world we're in a little bit. A lot of it. So welcome to everybody. Yeah, I don't know, I feel like I usually have a preamble, but I don't have one today. Today, I think I'm just gonna jump in. So, you know, it occurred to me, Chad, when I was thinking about this, you and I have never actually had a conversation.
Right. I think you were playing drums at the CT Core event, Uplifting Black Women, right? You're behind one of the mats, right?
I was.
Yeah, so I think that's the closest we've come to crossing paths.
Yeah.
Uniform.
I mean, aside from, like, you know, I've been to several of your shows. I'm not sure if you've ever seen me perform. I play with Tabisa often.
Okay.
Yeah, the South African singer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, also been to the Jam when that was a thing. Remember that? Remember those days?
A couple of years ago. Yeah.
Remember the good old days when we used to just go into a place with nothing strapped to our faces and just enjoy each other's company and like play music and, like, you know, live our lives. Remember that?
Yeah, but that was so last decade.
It really was. It really was. We're entering a brave new world, which is you know, there's some parts of it that are exciting, but I don't know that I've stopped, like, mourning for what we've lost.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that very deeply.
Yeah.
The quarantine in itself wasn't difficult for me. I'm an introvert. I'm already like a loner stoner, you know, on my own, making the music by the computer or the books or the screen or the whatever. Right. But it was the mourning part of what the world was, and the dreams, ambitions, careers, goals, aspirations, passions that were manifested in that world that seemingly can no longer exist. And maybe they can, you know, we're bouncing back, we're adapting, we're changing, but like everything has changed. Everything is very different. And it is a process of having to take a moment to, like, grieve, to cry about the pain, about the change. Maybe it's not painful, but it is different, and the difference needs to be acknowledged, you know?
Yeah, I agree. You know, there's a way in which, like, you know, you were talking about the sort of, you know, the hopes and the dreams that were, like, really connected to a reality that doesn't, like, exist anymore.
Right.
And so even, like, you know, I hear people saying, like, when we get on the other side of this, or like when, you know, when quarantine's over, and I'm just sort of saying, like, I don't think there is another side of this. I think this is it. Like, you know, we may get back to being in places and spaces together, but I think we're all changed because of this.
The other side, and, you know, since America as a whole isn't doing so great with all of this, the other side, even if there was an other side, is much farther away than like what it could have been, or maybe should have been. But the reality is we're ways out from the other side, although this seems like this is what it is, you know?
No, that's a great point. I think, even after things unfold, man, it's apparent how far we still have to travel together.
So much change to come to the individual internally and to society externally, and how we unify or divide or whatever those things. We're very far ways away from everything.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm sort of gathering my wits about me here. Let me ask you, pronouns. Do you have a preferred pronoun?
Yeah, I guess out of the options that we have on the table, the most accurate is they, them. Although I understand he, him. I know what I look like. I know what I carry as and present or whatever. But as a part of this internal reflection is me being more honest with myself and also to the world. So my preference is they, them.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for sharing that.
Or just Chad, like just my name. You can replace pronouns with Chad.
Awesome.
That works.
Yeah, that does work. Cool. My pronouns are he, him, and Eric also works spectacularly well. I can hear my name.
With the dope beard, yeah.
Thanks. Thank you. It's a couple years in the making now.
How many years?
How many? Well, so this iteration of it is probably about two and a half, maybe.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, when it started, it was, see that this stuff back here wasn't there. It was just like what was right in the front. And it got wispy and I wasn't feeling it. And then I almost cut it. And then I was like, no, this is the process, it's part of the process. And so then I just went the opposite direction, just stop shaving altogether, stop trimming, stop whatever. And then it got this came in and I was like, oh, I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for noticing. Oh, also pro tip, any human with a beard, they want to hear about it.
Yeah, I've never complimented someone with a beard that hasn't enjoyed the compliment. They're like, you're damn right. I grew that. You're damn right. Right.
Yeah, like I didn't have to actually do anything, but it requires some care and it requires some, so like, yeah, exactly. For sure. Thank you for noticing.
Yeah.
So, man, where to begin? Like, again, this feels like such an open book, and I'm so excited. So let me I'm just going to gush for a minute. I think I absolutely love your work. I love what you do. I love the music that you make. And this was all me just sort of like admiring from afar, and being totally like enamored with your kind of person on stage. You have a kind of ownership of the stage that I really, really, really enjoy. The way that the band moves in this particular case, Fat Astronaut, the way that Fat Astronaut moves and sort of like responds to you. And I know in a lot of ways, like responding to each other, like I get that. But also like, you're the guy in front, right? Like you're the guy on the mic. And so like, I'll even go as far as to say like the last sort of person was that I saw that I was like, I had that connection with, that I was like, look at the way that he's working with the band, was James Brown.
Ooh.
For real.
Get me.
Yeah, man. The way James Band just like responded to his every move and his words and all that, like I feel that very much with how you interact with your band. I don't know what happens behind the scenes. I don't know if you're bringing out the iron fist or whatever, but certainly on stage, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to watch.
I think I needed more of an iron fist. So like Fat Astronaut has been a very educational experience for me in that it's the first band that I've ever fronted, that I've been the front man of. So like I was in some other bands. Oris Jenkins, my brother Oris Jenkins, he had a band in college called Oris Jenkins and the Soul Trans Relations. And so I sung backgrounds in him. This other older singer, Kenny Hamber, I sang backgrounds in his group and a couple others. But like I was going from being like a solo artist who was singing on tracks, on things that I produced, to like doing like vocal looping things with some of the components I used, to being in front of that band and like letting people into the artistic collaborative experience and having more minds going at like a song or a sound. The guitarist in the band, Mark Lyon, he's the MD, the musical director. So he knows the musical jargon better than I do. I'm going off of ear and like what I hear and like the internal radio in my mind. So, you know, I try to portray that, but Mark can be like, okay, that's a C sharp, you know, we're going C sharp into A minor or whatever, which is great to translate when I can't, when I'm just like, it's a that doesn't always work. It works for me. It doesn't always work for everybody else.
For sure.
So the back and forth, I think that comes from the dynamic of us. I think it really comes from we've been a band for 4 years now, and before Corona we practiced weekly. You know, we practiced a lot. We love hanging out together. We're friends, which is great. I hear some bands are basically enemies that just happen to be on stage together making music, and that just seems like a real nasty place to be. I feel the most free and vulnerable and expressive on stage. That's home, you know. The rest of life is difficult, but like on stage is where I feel the freedom to like do. So like when I'm up there and I'm flowing and whatever, they're responding to me, I'm responding to them, I'm listening, I'm calling shots and things. They have taught me how to be a better leader and challenge me to convey messages and direct in cues, or the way I sing it, or if I stop or a hand signal or something. It's been an educational experience for everybody.
How beautiful. That's incredible. I feel very much the same way in terms of my there's a sense of camaraderie that draws me to music. I mean, I love the music, but the drums have always been just therapeutic for me. It you know, when I started playing drums, it was not really about performance. It was a very spiritual, very therapeutic endeavor for me, and remains so to a large degree. But I have taken more to performance, you know, recently. But it's that camaraderie. It's being with people that I really just appreciate and enjoy. And I'm hearing that from what you're talking about.
Yeah. Being on stage with friends makes total sense to me. In how much music means to me, how it's saved my life more than once, how it gives me connection and visibility and expression. I want to share the stage with people that I believe in and can connect with, and like their skill speaks for themselves alone, but to bring 7 heads of talented people into one focal point is Fat Astronaut. That's the explosion of things. I might have like creative freedom and like a final say in some of the musical things that we end up doing, but the music would not sound the way it does if it wasn't like, you know, Dylan McDonald doing his flute and sax part and figuring that out, with Mark Lyon on guitar doing his thing, Travis Hall on drums, you know, ripping it up. I can't do those things. I wish I could, but I really can't. And so like they come in and I might have a little jaunty tune or something, and then they bring it 6 levels up in a way that I would never have considered. So the being able to share space with humans that want to make dope, impactful music, and also have kind hearts and souls, and like can coexist together is beautiful, you know.
It is. Oh man, so rich. So tell me about the first time music saved your life.
Wow, what a question, dude.
Also, if at any point I'm crossing lines or we're getting into territory,
Fuck lines.
okay, all right, great.
Can I swear on this? I don't even.
You just did, and here we are. We're alive still.
Cool. Well, I think in some ways, like, okay, so just on an overall basis, I've spent a lot of my life show choir and a cappella groups and chamber choirs and marching band. And because I was in those groups, I wasn't out in the streets. I wasn't like out in general with some of my peers the way I could have been, because I was so invested in the connection, the freedom that I felt, the visibility, the stage, the craft. Like, I really love singing, and I really love writing, and I really love sound and all the components that were like put into my ear, or like that I've been exposed to or I've found over time. And so, I mean, I didn't grow up in the hood, but I grew up like hood adjacent, like this street over, you know? And so it could have been very easy for me to be out there. And like, I know my mom didn't want that for me. So she had some restrictions on me with like what I could listen to, what I could watch, curfews that were very hard curfews, you know, 10 o'clock show curfew, 10:01, you don't live here, you know, that sort of like strictness. And like, if I was ever out at a school activity, it was either music or like a couple sports. I was on the swim team, tennis team, badminton team. I was very involved in like school programs just to keep busy. I didn't want to be home. I had nothing to do at home, but also I wasn't like out in the streets. So in that sense, it shifted my entire life spectrum and course, because my focus of connection was music, you know? So I'd say it was from that point, you know?
Powerful. Yeah. I can totally understand that. And, you know, I have to say, cause it's sort of, you know, swimming in my mind a little bit, you know, so there was this article that just came out about you like a day or two ago. I found it.
By Rachel?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know how long ago you actually spoke to her, but I think it just came out like maybe 2 days ago.
Yeah, it was like a week or two ago, and then she asked some follow-up questions and then finished that. I haven't read it yet, so continue.
Yeah, well, I found it to be, well, so first off, like I said, like you and I, this is the first time we've ever spoken.
Yeah.
And so like what I just found just deep, like just beautiful was there were so many places where we have these parallels, very, very similar, you know, everything that you just said, like sort of, you know, involved mother, curfews, regulating what I could hear and what I could watch. You know, she was the kind of mom that would like take the little wires out of the back of the TV. So like I couldn't watch, you know, cable when she wasn't home. You know what I mean? She was really like, you know, there's stuff out there and it's crazy. And like, you're my baby boy and we're not.
That's the devil's image. Yeah.
Yeah. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
But you know, there were also some really, tender things in here in the article that I kind of want to ask you about if I can.
Yeah.
Cool. So one of the things, one of your quotes is, I've been doing music all my life, and it's an expressive, cathartic, connective outlet that has always given me great purpose. And I'm wondering about that last word. I'm wondering about purpose and how you see your purpose as an artist, as a musician, as a person of color, as Chad in the world. What is your purpose?
Well, as I think we all have been taking time to reflect on the pains, on the change, on the revolution, on the sorrows, on the joys, on the shift, on all of the things, I had come to a point inside of myself where I started to realize that I haven't had pride in anything other than my music. The music is the only thing I've ever cared about, to the extent that I've cared about it. You know, it is like I said, it's an entity that has brought a purpose and love and connection to my life. And so I've always put all of my emotion and thoughts and questions and everything into the music. And I think that's a part of why my music has connected to people, because it has this sort of honest, transparent, painful vulnerability thing for reflecting all the things. So I have always been under the assumption that the reason that I am alive, this life cycle, is for music, is to connect through art, through my music, through the writing, through the stage. My purpose lies in the difference that I've seen and feel and can observe when I'm on stage versus not, you know. Like I can have a conversation. This is great. I'm down to like meet people and be kind and connect in other ways. But there is a visible difference when I meet someone after singing or after performing to before, or like, just like, I don't know, we're at Chipotle or whatever, and we meet and like, oh yeah, you're a cool dude. I love that. That's cool. But like, if you come to the show, it's like, oh shit, you know, it's a different thing. And I know it, and I can see it. And because of that experience, I've continued to like lean into it. Like that happened from like a really young age, like somewhere in like middle school, maybe. Started doing show choir. I was in like the jazz band. I was the kid that sang the national anthem at all the events. And because of this, they were like, oh, all right, you know, your voice, your stage presence. And I was never really shy on stage. It doesn't bother me. I want to sing. This is the platform to connect to as many people as possible. So I'm down for it. So I have had all of my purpose and pride in music, and now that I am sort of trying to recode the DNA of my insides to have more pride instilled in my Blackness, in my queerness, in my intelligence, in everything else, that I kind of was just like, yeah, it is what it is. Like, it's not like it's not like I'm not aware that I'm Black. It's very clear. My mother made it very clear, you're a Black boy in America. You need to be prepared for the reality of what the world is out there. You do not have a fair chance because of the way that you look, and I need you to be aware. You know, my mom would put me on to that, but my father never said anything to that. And, you know, I would think that my dad, being a Black male, would be the one to say those things, but we never really he didn't really talk much. That's not the experience that I had with my father. But my mother made me aware of this. And, you know, at the time of being younger, it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm Black. Very great. I got it. I understand. I need to be precautious of things. I need to keep on my toes, my P's and Q's, and great, whatever. But it was more like, be aware that you should almost carry a bit of fear in the fact that the world looks at you like this, and not necessarily the pride of my heritage, of my lineage, of Black makers and creators and things. And so now, again, as I'm reflecting, I can think of like a lot of my peers who have always been proud to be Black, who have always been outspoken and instilled with Black pride. Like, again, Oris Jenkins, as far back, we went to high school together, as far back as I can remember, he was a big push for me to up to maybe sophomore year of high school. I didn't really know hip hop or R&B or soul music or jazz, really, for that matter, just like a smidge. And Oris was a big impression on me to be like, yo, have you heard My Boo by Usher and Alicia Keys? And I'm like, no, I don't start on here. I'm like, oh, what? You can do this? Like,
right.
You know, him put me on to like his inspirations and soul music and powerful movements and things and working with Kenny Hamber again. And we would do, he's like an old soul cat. So, you know, we would do like, you know, just my imagination, like I'll stand down, girl, you knock me out, you know. And at the time I was a little begrudging because I want to write my own music. I want to create my own music. I want to fuse sound to make things that have almost never been heard. And if they have been heard, then I'm putting my stamp on it. But now as I'm looking back, I'm so grateful that I was in Kenny's band and singing Sarah's Smile, like that. I have that in my repertoire, that I feel Sarah's smile. And I'm like, baby girl with the woman eyes, and heart and fine. That melody, the song, that whole thing is beautiful. I am now, I think this is my process of being under construction, of like being more outspoken about the things that I am, the things that impact me, the things that I care about, rather than just sort of holding the stance of observer until I get on stage and do the thing and then get off stage and then go back, you know, sort of into the shell that I have been living in. I'm trying to come out of that shell. So I don't remember your question, but I hope that answered it.
Yeah, it does. No, I appreciate this, and I appreciate your generosity and your honesty. Again, like so much of what you're saying, I just deeply resonate with and connect to. So I'm feeling particularly grateful, you know, to be talking with you. So you said. So influences. So couple influential people in your life, musically, not musically, whatever. Like who's walking around in the back of your brain, in your subconscious? Who's in there?
So when I was coming up, when I decided I wanted to be a singer, that I wanted to do this sort of storytelling and being able to sing and perform live, was Elton John. So I was maybe 12. I come home from school. I'm using the computer. Whether I was supposed to be or not is debatable. And I put the Can You Feel the Love Tonight music video next to Can You Feel the Love Tonight live when he's playing it. And I was going back and forth just to see, like, could he actually sing this? Because I think auto-tune was getting real popular at that time. So like Akon, T-Pain, whoever else. And I'm like, I don't want to sound like a robot. I can actually sing. So why do I need this? Which is the irony is now I now sound like a robot because it's fun. And I love it. It's so good. It's so fun. Just because you can sing, you can't sound like a robot too. I get it now. I get it, Akon. I get it, T-Pain. I understand. But putting them next to each other, I noticed that he could really sing. He could really play the piano. He could really tell that story. And so I was like, I want to do that. I want to tell stories. I want to sing. I want to perform. And like, you feel it. You mean it. That can you feel the love tonight? It is where we are. It's enough to make kings and vagabonds believe the very best. Like he does real great. And I didn't realize at the time that people had songwriters behind them. So I thought like Elton John wrote all this shit. I thought, you know, Tiny Dancer, Candle in the Wind, Your Song, Crocodile Rock, whatever his big ones are, that he did it, that he wrote it and composed it. And so in my head, I was like, if I want to do that, I got to write stories. I got to be able to sing them and execute them. I got to do the whole platform. Later, I find out he has the writer, Bernie Taupin, who did a lot of his writing, and they have a partnership, and it was really great. Bernie has really beautiful writing, and Elton has really great composition. And then a little further, I really loved Coldplay. I think Coldplay is so great. Their palette, like Chris Martin's skill, he can sing and play. Like, a little further, I was really into this band called The Fray. Their big song was like How to Save a Life. And it was like, I think they're like a rock Christian band or something like that. So my mom was like, cool for me to like listen to that, whatever. A little further, I really like folk music. I like the sort of simplicity of singer-songwriters with some great harmonies, giving very beautiful, painful messages, a very honest reflection of whatever they're feeling. So like Mumford and Sons was big on my head. They had had great harmonies. They had great
Yeah.
impact. You know, they had a very interesting thing. But even in having all of these artists, I didn't really connect to my reflection of myself in their sound. I just liked them. Like, I connected to their story and how they made music, but I don't hear myself in what I create and how I wanted to sound in their music. So I say a couple years down the road, I think maybe near the end of high school, my friend Kyle, he brings his whole like desktop laptop over to my house. He goes off to work at Toys R Us when Toys R Us was a thing, and his whole shift, I'm sitting there and he shows me how to use Fruity Loops, like the basics of it, and I like never moved from that couch. And I figure out how to produce some things, and so that like starts me producing my own music. Because again, I love music and I love sound, but nobody's making what I want to sing over. And even if they are, then I gotta buy it, and I don't understand leasing. And like copyrights is not a thing I don't understand. I just need I need full power over what I'm making to make what I want to make, you know?
Yeah.
So I get into like producing and still I'm like making things, but there's nobody that I'm like, yeah, I want to sound like them, until I get to like the end of college. This artist, John Bellion, he's got this like sort of Jay Dilla type pocket when he like produces his shit. But also there's like a sort of whimsical sort of Disney feel to it. There's these strings, there's these poppy sounds.
Wow.
He's got great melody. He raps, he writes his things, he sings, he plays the keys, he plays some other instruments, and his fusion of sound blew my mind. I was like, I didn't know you could do this with music. You know, the first song I heard from him was called "The Wonder Years," and so in the song, he kind of does like a Timberland thing where he's using like vocal recordings to do like the mouth sort of beatbox and boom type of thing.
Yeah,
but he's doing really light, like trickly sounds. It's just like, and he like kept that in the song, and I was like, this is cool. You know, piano comes in, whatever, and the whole song is portraying like he's asking the question, when do we go from our adolescence, the bliss and ignorance of a child, to like killing each other for like shoes and wars and like money. So then he poses like, one of the lines is like, people murdering for damn shoes, people lying on the damn news, and my niece is blowing bubbles in the yard, you know? And so that like dichotomy between those two things was beautiful. It was a great question. It was posed really well. There was a nostalgia feeling to it. And so John Bellion is like the first artist that I was like, oh, this does everything. It sounds good. And I want that. And so also in John Bellion's repertoire of sound palette changes, he does some things to his vocals where like he'll be singing, it's like this is his vocal, and then there's like a secondary vocal under it that kind of sounds like he's underwater, like this whoa 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 type of thing. And I was like, what is this? I didn't know you could do this to a voice. So then I went on a mission to find how to make that sound. I was producing a little bit using Logic Pro X, and on Logic Pro X there's a pitch shifter plugin that you can use to manipulate your voice down or up by semitones, down an octave, up an octave. So started to figure out like, okay, if I sing this up the octave and I shoot it down the octave, it sounds like this submerged thing. So that's probably what he's doing, but it didn't sound as good. So then I went looking into like some pedals. I started looking at some vocal pedals and some things, and stumbled onto the TC Helicon Voice Live Play, this little blue box that I initially started, and that had the vocal shifts and things that I was looking for. But on top of that, it also so happened to have a looping effect, a loop setting. And so I started fucking around with that just because it was an option to have. And then that stumbled me into building songs out of scratch on some Bobby McFerrin shit, and being like the whole barbershop quartet, you know.
That's awesome.
Being the whole choir in the cathedral with those acoustics and thing. That box could like the box, it was limited, but it basically has like a 10-second bass loop. So whatever you're doing to start, You have about 10 seconds to complete the loop, and then it'll hop back around to the beginning. You know, if you go over, then you fuck up the loop. If you're a little under, then like this is what you're doing. But that pedal also has auto tune, reverb, distortion, harmonies, a whole bunch of things. So it brought me into like looping things, but also manipulating my voice while I'm looping, but also like mixing and EQing the volumes of where it all sat, since I only have one bank of sound at my disposal. I have to choose what I want when I want in the song. So if it's like a to start the song, then like that's the first chorus, or that's the first verse. I get to the chorus and then I add another harmony or a counter melody or something like that. So the song builds. I can only undo the last group of things that I recorded. So if I like record a bunch of things and save that, and then record a bunch of other things and save that, I can only get rid of the secondary thing that I saved. So I got strategic with this tiny little looper thing. Wow. I got a little more expansive and invested in the Boss RC505, which is like a 5-station looper station. You can run it into your computer. It has like a MIDI tempo thing where you can sync the tempo of the pedal to the tempo of like other instruments or other computers and things, which is great. I don't really know how it works, but I'm working on it. You can also, it's fun to like buy things, just like see what happens.
Experiment. Yeah.
You got it,
because that's like how the most amazing stuff happens, right? Like I feel like, you know, following the rules and like it's sort of like, okay, well, like it's going to set you up to do the thing everybody else is doing,
right?
But like bringing your own, just for lack of a better term, just like naivete to it almost is like being able to be like, oh, okay. And then you figure something out and it's like, boom. And other people are, where did that come from? It's just because like I wasn't bound by the rules. Right. And I don't know. I feel that way about you, Chad, for some reason. Like I feel very much like you're not bound by rules that maybe other people find really important. And it's one of the things I really like about the little of you I know. I know you as an artist. I've seen you perform, I don't know, 15 times. Yeah, I've seen you a bunch. But that's I feel that. I love that. And it's the thing that keeps me coming back. You know, not to mention, like you said, there's a bunch of other amazing people, you know, on stage with you. And I'm going to go ahead and put a plug in for myself. Maybe one day I'll get to rock out on a stage. I play a little bit of conga, in case you didn't know. Every now and again, I like to do a little something.
Once the world turns back on, maybe that'll happen.
But I want to go back to something you said a little bit earlier. You said, you know, so this is it Bellion?
Yeah, John Bellion. So Jon space Bellion.
Ion.
Like
Bellion.
Bell and ion as a word.
Yeah. Got it. So he makes this song, Wonder Years. It's got this powerful sort of question that he's probing. And I'm wondering about that question for you. I'm wondering about when was a time, do you remember the time when you lost your innocence?
You ask good questions, dude.
Thanks, man.
Part of me, so I guess the first answer that's coming up is as Black people, we don't really get the luxury of innocence. Like I said, my mother instilled in me from a really young age, like, you need to be aware. And like, I don't want to lose you. If you go to jail, I'm not visiting you, so don't go to jail. Like, I need you to be prepared. And even in her telling me these things, there's still a bliss of the child, you know, of like, yeah, I hear you, but like la-di-da-di-da, you know? So I think it might have been, I think it's around death that we find a lot of change, in the depth of pain, or dealing with, the absolute of death. So I'd say maybe around 2017, in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Did I feel a shift when my grandfather died, my father's father, my grandfather. And then the next month, my father was hospitalized. And then the next month, my aunt, my father's sister, died. And then the next month, my mom was in the hospital. And so that period, that 4-month period, or however long it was, like, really made me reflect on the perceptions and coding that we put into place as kids. The reality of the world that we see as a kid may be the truth to you then, but it may not be the actual truth. It may not be the reality of reality. That's part of the joy of being a kid. You don't know shit. You don't really get it. You're like figuring it out.
Oblivious. Yeah.
That oblivion, and so that period really sort of ripped away. I wasn't close to my grandfather, but on his deathbed, I reached out. I left a note, and I was like, "Yo, when you wake up, tell me some stories, because I would love to hear them. I'm open to them. I'm ready." And he never did, and that's like a bridge that I tried to attach at the last minute that did not work out, and that will forever be with me. That I was too late. I showed up not soon enough, but as the kid, when am I supposed to show up? Are you as the grandfather not supposed to show up? But either way, that happened, and then that's gone. And then my father needed to be hospitalized. I've never seen that man sick. I've never seen him ask for my help. I've never seen him in the hospital or need my help. And so one day I come home, and he's sitting on the bed, and he's telling me, he was like, I was waiting for you to come home because I was on the floor in the bathroom and I couldn't get up. I didn't have the strength. And my dad, for as long as I can recall, has been the bodybuilder type. He's like a 5'7" dude with these bulgy eyes, and he's bald, but he's jacked. He's in good health. He might have high blood pressure, but his physique is good for he's in his 60s now, and he's still pretty built. He's got bad knees, but he'll still work those knees,
Yeah.
So to have him tell me that he needs me because he was too weak to do something was unveiling. So I had to bring him to the hospital. He was in the hospital, and I see he has, I think, 9 sisters. I think so, something like that. Got 8 sisters now, and so they were coming in and out. And this is the first time I'm seeing my father as a brother, as a younger brother, as my older aunt annoying him about pillows, fluffing his pillows. She's like, "Yo, Wayne, are you good? Are you good?" And he's like, "Get off me, I'm fine." I've never seen him frantic, trying to accept her kindness as his sister, but pushing her away because "Yo, get off me, sis." That sort of thing that I've always had with I have my older sister is almost 4 years older than me, and it felt like that. It felt like I was watching myself with my sisters, and I've never seen him in this position. He's just been this distant, non-talkative entity that's always been in my life, but I've never seen him as mortal. I'm not sure he's seen himself as mortal. Then my aunt dies, and that hits him pretty hard too. And then my mom's in the hospital, and my mom has been in and out of hospitals and sick and having illnesses my entire life. So I know my mother to be in the hospital. I know her to constantly be on the cusp of death, really, of being very close to that. And so maybe part of that, always having my mom being sick and thing, is I had also had some of this innocence ripped away about how fragile life is, about how at any moment my mother could not be here, and I may or may not be prepared. I may or may not know about it, and they would just be gone. So I kind of think for some, at least for me, there was a point where I started looking at my perception of my father isn't necessarily who I thought he was. once I started figuring out like love languages, you know, how people want to be loved or need to be loved, and how they receive love, how they give love, how they take love, and whatever, and learning that like my father showed love through like financial support, you know, the being there when I was asking for emotional support, to like talk, to like know you. I don't know you and I want to know you. I don't care about your money. I mean, thank you. Thank you for the roof. Thank you for the food. I'm grateful. Don't get me wrong. The car to go to the gigs and things, but like there's an emotional connection that I am personally lacking and desiring that I was just angry that I didn't have. We just were distant, and it wasn't until that period where I was like, oh, this is how he loves, and this is what he's been doing. So he does love me, and I am seeing that, and I do understand that now. And now I need to figure out how to communicate and reflect and change things. So like that point for me was a real break in like change and some of the recoding from a kid. But I think for others, it might just be like gradual over time, where you start to just sort of lose your whimsical innocence, and then you're like an adult, you know, you wake up and you're like, oh shit, my back hurts.
Right. Shit, I got this bill to pay.
No, damn.
Am I really doing this now?
Right.
Yeah, no, there's all of these pieces of adulthood that like keep unfolding. I just briefly say, like, recently bought a washer and dryer and was like, what, dude? Like, I own a what? Like, I own, like when I leave this place, I'm taking this with me. Like, what?
This is my washer and dryer.
Crazy. It's crazy. And you know, and like ridiculously mundane, and yet somehow this weird rite of passage. Odd rite of passage is sort of, you know, marker of our kind of capitalism and whatever else. And yeah, I'll be the first one to tell you, I love going to the basement and washing my clothes in my washer and dryer. Like you know what I mean? Like, so there's that too. Like it's all the complexity, right? And I think it's sort of emblematic of the kind of complexity that we find ourselves in pretty regularly, for sure. So it's just past 2:00. I'm happy to keep talking. We did get started a little late, but I also recognize that, you know, when we spoke, I said like an hour, and like, yeah, you know, I know you have like a life and things may be happening. So I want to respect that. If you'd like to keep going, I got more questions for sure. So tell me where you're at.
Some more questions. I think I'm going to be leaving the house in maybe 30 minutes. I'm playing the show, this digital virtual show, Celebrate Shelton. I think that there's an anniversary for the town of Shelton.
Oh, nice.
But it's going to be streaming on our Facebook page. We go on at 6. So it should be cool, but I'll probably be leaving here. Yeah, so I got another half hour. Okay, all right. So let's do this. I'm going to ask you the final question that I ask everybody. Great. And then we can maybe call it from there. Even though I hope this is not at all the last time that you and I get to speak. I'm feeling pretty confident that it won't be. It will not. Yeah, cool. Looking forward to that. And this has been absolutely a joy. So thank you. Great, man. So my last question, and the question I ask everybody, is what did I not ask you that I should have? Well, we talked about like past influences. So I think it's a question you already asked me, but as I am growing and changing and evolving and adapting in the times, I have
even over this call.
Say what?
Even over this call, apparently.
Yeah. I have found a real connection to Nina Simone, to Sam Cooke, to Muddy Waters, to just like music that I knew and was aware of, but for some reason they sound different now. They feel different.
Yeah.
You know, Nina hits like good.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
Lord.
Yes, dude.
Oh.
You know what it is? To me, here's my take on that. There's like a maturity level that I think an individual needs to appreciate everything that's going on with this music from that era in particular, right? Like I think I'll just speak for myself. When I came to Nina the first time, I was like, who is this? His voice is weird, and like what is this? Like, what are we listening to? Like, can we listen to something else? I was probably like heavy in I went through a heavy hip hop phase for a while. And I came up in sort of like the golden era, right? So I had like Nas and like, you know, Biggie and these, you know, all these kinds of like amazing people. And yeah, like I'm with you, like recently, like in it's like the past, say like 5 years, I've come back to stuff and I'm just like mind blown.
Yeah.
You know?
What I am, so like the music is great, and the story is beautiful, but mostly what I am connecting to about like that period and artists in the civil rights movements and speakers and poets and whoever was an impactful entity is how they chose to use their platform at the time that these changes were happening. I really resonate with Nina going from like, you know, being classically trained pianist to doing some records to like singing and whatever, having her hair permed and like whatever, to this moment to her making a conscious choice, making an intentional decision that from this point out, I'm going to use my platform to uplift Black people, to talk about the movement, to talk about things that are weighing heavy on me, to talk about the abuse in my relationship, the whatever. I am going to be so fucking raw that I'm already here. So like, I mean, if I lose it, fuck it, but I probably won't. And we need to hear this. We need to be connecting like that. And like, I even take note that like her career did take a dive because of that period, because she made that choice. And then like, you know, she dipped off to all the places she dipped off to and had to like come back into it. And there's a documentary on Nina Simone on Netflix. And so at one point near the end, she's talking about how like she no longer was even singing the songs that she wrote for the civil rights movement because nobody wants to hear them anymore. Like it's not for the time. It's not, that time has passed. So those songs are crystallized in that age, which is very honest of her to note that like, she was like, if I had known that this would have happened, I might have chosen differently. I'm glad that she didn't. I'm glad that it is what it is, but it's very honest reflection of the business, the career, the making an intentional choice, how it can or cannot work for you, work against you. And like Prince, you know, another profound one that I'm really bonding with his sexual fluidity in aesthetic, his relentlessness in standing for something and saying something. His music fucking bangs, like top to bottom. His 1 trillion albums are like all good, you know. I want that.
And just like a genius artist too, right? Like he played like 37 instruments and like just what? I
want that. I'm a realist, so I understand that like my platform isn't as big and like I'm not famous or well known or like
yet.
Thank you. But all the same, we're in a revolution. This to me feels like a revolution on a scale that we haven't really ever seen across the world. It's crazy. It is beautiful. It's terrifying. It's disheartening. It's joyful. It's all sorts of things. And so like this year, the turn of the decade, my aunt dies in January, and then like Corona happens and quarantine happens, and so I'm grieving my aunt, and that's definitely the most impactful death that I have ever experienced. That I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, I wouldn't have said that I was close to my aunt, and yet this person that's been there all my life vanishes and it hurts, and it hurts a lot. And so I'm reflecting on that, and then, you know, quarantine happens, and I'm continuing to grieve and things, and then George Floyd's death happens, and then that hits really hard, and I find that is a visceral experience that I almost find hard to believe that it is what it is, but it is what it is, and it's not hard to believe because it's always been happening. Now it's just on camera, and now the world is in uproar and rage and whatever. But just as much as this has been a impactful punch for the world and for like white people and for like businesses and establishments, it has been impactful for me too. You know, it just hit in a different way that maybe I had been desensitized or like unaware, or that blissful ignorance of prior deaths that I know of and that I felt, and I was like, that's fucked up and that's wrong. This just slapped differently. And so since that has happened, and I'm digging, I'm recoding, and I'm looking up these Malcolm X and Spike Lee and James Baldwin and Angela Davis and like all of these people that I knew of in like theory, you know, in like the ambient form of, but I didn't get the depth of how powerful and potent and like what they were saying and what it felt like. Everything is just hitting differently. Like my new favorite movie is Spike Lee's Malcolm X. That movie is
a great movie.
Amazing. It is astounding. It is so good. I've watched it
up to
over
that
and
point.
over.
Up to that point, it was the longest movie I had ever seen. And I went to the movie theaters and saw that movie like 7 times in the theater while it was still showing. Because like the big screen, and just, oh my God, it was incredible. And like the cultural phenomenon that it was at the time, everybody walking around with the X hats and the X shirts and all that kind of stuff. It was like,
walking around
man. Right. You know what I mean? All of that, man. Yeah, it's just such a powerful, and also like, you know, like I Spike is sort of like an underappreciated dude in current times. You know, like you look back at his work now, and it's like, whoa, like he was saying these things, you know, and sort of like had awareness of it then when it was like new. But yeah, coming back to it, you know, as an older, more mature adult, has been pretty incredible. And yeah, I think in a lot of ways, like that's the beauty of art. You know, I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the way that, you know, we release something into the world as artists. And once we do that, it doesn't like belong to us anymore, right? It belongs to the world, and how people consume it and understand it and interpret it and metabolize it. Actually, and I'm going to use one of your lines. You don't really have a say in it. You just don't have a say in it once it's out there, and people do incredible, amazing things, and have incredible, amazing experiences. Right now, people are having amazing experiences to your music that you'll never know about. You'll never be aware of. You know what I mean? And there's just something so beautiful, ethereal, and just impactful about that. So thank you, Chad, for what you do. I deeply appreciate you. I appreciate the work you're doing. I appreciate Chad, the human. Yeah.
It's you know, music for me is really like I said, it gives me purpose and things. So it's a matter of like life or death. If I don't do it, then what am I here for? Once I put it out into the world, but what I've really come to see and feel through learning about Nina and Sam and so on and so forth is like art is the catalyst that will push us forward. It always is. It's always whether music or dance, movies or photos or whatever, it is the catalyst that makes change more feasible. It's not through like the fucking politicians that are doing whatever they are or are not doing, or whoever writes whatever it's musicians, it's artists, dancers, it's those who move you in that chemical way that really can't be explained, saying something in their music. So like, as long as I'm doing this, as long as there's sound in my head, in this mind's radio, then that's what I'm going to aim for. I'm going to aim to say something that makes you think and question and have conversation and be like pretty as shit, but also sort of gritty and like ugly, you know?
Yeah. And you do that well. You do that extremely well. Yeah. Thank you, man. This has been an absolute treat, a joy. I in some ways, I'm sort of glad that this is the first conversation that we've had. It's given me permission to kind of just probe. It might be weird if we were doing it in some other setting. But I'm looking forward to what unfolds for you, man. And also, hopefully we'll get to do something creative together. I think that would be incredible. And my great
this is
great
just
pleasure. Yeah, I think so too, man. All right, well, break a leg at the gig, man.
Thanks. I will try and not literally, but
no, don't actually do it, but be amazing like you always are.
I'll do my damnedest. Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Later, everybody.
Peace.